marginally better team, but not a team I'm too excited about. The Indianapolis Colts, of course, big change coming in. They bring in Carson Wentz, who immediately gets injured, and it seems like it's not looking great. I think he's maybe back at practice or whatever. Anyway, Carson Wentz, 371 for 549, a little over 4,100 yards, 29 touchdowns, 16 picks, 51 rushes for 204, 2 touchdowns. That's good enough for quarterback 22 on the projections board, but you got him down at 30 on the big board. You're not a believer in Wentz. I'm not a believer in Wentz either. Certainly not fantasy-wise. I'm not touching that no matter what.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised he comes out that high on my projections. It's, I guess, ranked a little bit lower, one, because of the injury risk, as we've already seen in training camp. He is expected to be back for week 1, which is great for everyone here, especially Jonathan Taylor and the receivers, to have a quarterback that's actually competent under center. The one scenario that could play out well for Wentz is he was on pace for the MVP season when he had Frank Reich as his offensive coordinator. They love each other. There's always been this bromance between them. Wentz has openly talked about while he was with the Eagles how he wanted to get back to being with Reich. They traded a potential first rounder to go get him, and Reich has just completely sucked him dry ever since he arrived there. So there is this marriage that has worked before. But if Wentz is anything like what we saw last year, it doesn't matter who the play caller was. This guy couldn't find his receivers with any type of accuracy. I would also say, too, though, the one other thing that's intriguing about this Colts team is they are ranked in the top 5 in projected points by Vegas. And Vegas always is pretty good at nailing the best offenses. I don't know where those points are coming from, who they're going towards, but it's something just to note and pay attention to, because I think all of us out there projecting this offense is gross, stay away besides Jonathan Taylor, whereas Vegas is this offense is sneaky to be a top 5 team in the NFL. It's a tricky balance. I don't see it, but Vegas also often sees things I don't and gets it right. So that's I talked about there.
No, Vegas is right more than they're wrong. And you saying that gives me a little bit of pause, but I don't see it. We'll talk about the rest of the players and we'll see. And, I've certainly been proven wrong before, and maybe this is one where I'm going to get proven wrong again. We'll see. The stud of this team, fantasy-wise, and I guess just in reality, is Jonathan Taylor. He's their running back out of the backfield, 269 for 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns to go along with 38 catches for a little over 300 yards and a touchdown. He's followed by 2, I'm not going to say big names, but known commodities in Nyheim Hines, who got rushing maybe 60 times for 250 and 2 touchdowns, catching 60 balls. That's his big 62 balls for 465, 4 touchdowns. You got him getting 78 targets. That's not nothing. And then Marlon Mack, who seemed to be on the cusp of greatness a couple times in his career and always got hurt right before that happened. You got him getting 74 carries for around 300 yards and a touchdown. Rankings for these guys, you got Taylor 8 projected points, but you got him down at 11 on the big board. Hines, you got actually projected at 39, but down at 51 on the big board, and then Max in the 70s on both lists.
Yeah, that seems about right. Taylor, if this guy was handed the bell cow work, which he was last year, towards the end of the stretch, nobody outscored him over those last 4 games. The guy was an absolute monster. He's always been a joy to watch. Maybe one of the best 5 talents as a runner in terms of just a bull, but he can also catch. He deserves pure stallion workhorse treatment. And Frank Reich's come out and said, he's the first man up. He earned it last year. So I like all of those things, but I also hate the fact that it took a Jordan fucking Wilkins injury for Taylor to actually be handed those reins full time. I don't think Hines is just going to disappear. He's a good receiver. The team has hyped him up again throughout camp. So that's going to kind of cap the receiving ceiling for Taylor. Marlon Mack, coming off the Achilles shouldn't be a factor, but I guess he's looking explosive in camp, and good for him. I'm not saying I'm rooting against him. So for the sake of Taylor to be a better fantasy product, I'd love to see Marlon Mack recover from the Achilles tear, because that just doesn't happen very often at the running back position. In fact, over the last 10 years, nobody has come back and actually had a meaningful season off an Achilles tear. And I don't think Mack will have a meaningful season, but he could be just involved enough to keep Taylor a little bit capped as he was last year. Love the player. Just hate the coach who always insists on a hot hand committee approach. That should always be Taylor with the hot hand. It just wasn't always last year, and I can't sit here and say I'm 100% confident it's going to be again. So he typically falls to about round 2 for me, and he's usually going in round 1. Somebody else is going to take that leap ahead of me.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. I like him, but I think other people like it more than I do.
Just to be clear with that too, though, like if at the end of the year we're sitting here saying Jonathan Taylor's the number one running back in fantasy and Reich just decided to give him 350 touches like he deserves, well, that I am more like that could easily happen because again, it's a player I believe in. I have no doubt if he got the work, he could finish number one. It's again a question about the work, but none of us will be shocked if he is the number one player because of how damn good he is. They're loving too. The best quote I read is like, he's helped them just completely turn around their identity in terms of like, you don't want to play this guy in joint practices. He is just steamrolling defenders left and right, like setting this physical tone to the offense. They're saying Pittman is doing the same at the receiver position, just laying people out down the field. I like that. Like as a football fan, I like hearing about this team just kind of getting a little gritty, getting a little like tough. And you don't picture the Colts like that since Peyton Manning's always finesse, like, pretty little offense. It sounds like they're like embracing the fact that Taylor is the steamroller, and maybe that will lead to some more volume than we're expecting. I still don't buy it till I see it though.
Yeah, I don't usually think of the Colts as a tough team either, although I think Marvin Harrison did like shoot somebody a few years ago, but that was after he was retired.
Right.
So that's the counterpoint. Yes. Let's talk receivers. So receiving, we got two. We got the corpse of T.Y. Hilton, who you've got projected for a whopping 51 catches for 700 yards and 6 touchdowns on 84 targets. And then you got Michael Pittman, who you were all about, you were all about him last year for a while, and I was highly skeptical. And I'm still highly skeptical. 57 catches, 735, 6 touchdowns for him, also on 84 targets. So pretty even split amongst those guys. You got them ranked right around the same, both on your projection list and your big board, right around 60.
Yeah. I mean, T.Y. Hilton, maybe Wentz can kind of revive him for 1 or 2 last seasons. Wentz does, for all his faults, have a strong arm. So maybe they're saying that was a good rapport early in camp before Wentz got hurt. Maybe that can get reignited for a single season. I've always loved Hilton as a player, but he's certainly on the back nine. He had 2 useful games last year and was just a huge dud the rest of the year. So I'm not going out there seeking out T.Y. Hilton. I guess the only thing working in his and also all these receivers' favor is they have the second easiest schedule throughout the year and one of maybe the easiest in terms of the playoff schedule as well for these Colts receivers. So there is a little upside there. If there's one that is going to explode and be like an 1,100, 10 TD guy, though, that would be Michael Pittman. As you said, I was hyped up on him last year. I still believe in the player, believe in the talent. I think he's a very physical guy, a possession guy, helpful in the run game. There are a lot of comparisons to Michael Thomas coming out of college. I loved him. I thought the Colts got a steal with him in round 2, and I still wouldn't be shocked if he grew into himself. There's just a lot of receivers going in his range. Terrace Marshall, Marquez Callaway, a bunch of these round 10, 11 guys that I just like significantly more in terms of their offenses or their target share or just their ability. I just don't land Pittman really ever, even though I did love the player coming in. I'm not buying Wentz that much. And I think it Reich's, again, just like he does with his backfield, always been a big believer in just spreading that wealth, which might make a good overall offense. And maybe that is why Vegas likes these guys. They might put some points up on the board, but you just might not.
And they might not, though.
They might not as well.
They might not. Like, it's kind of like when you talk about Pittman, and it's like, a lot of these guys you like and guys that I like, they're a lot of them are physical specimens. A lot of them are good talents. It's like you talked about, like Nico Collins. Oh, he's a big body, blah, blah, blah. It's like the same thing with Pittman and a guy like him. And I'm not necessarily comparing them directly, but it's like there's always going to be somebody I want more.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to own these guys. And
no, me neither. Like, and behind them, Pascal, no. Paris Campbell's a buzzy name, and a lot of people like him. He flashed before he got hurt last year, but he's run as the 4th receiver so far this preseason. There's just nobody, as you're saying. Like, I'm always going to go somewhere else before any of these wide receivers.
Now we talk tight ends. Nothing to get excited about here. I mean, our buddy Jack Doyle, who was an RSJ darling years ago.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, the adjustments you made to your projections in the last couple hours, you actually upped the tight end numbers a little bit for both these guys. Jack Doyle, 45 catches, 459, 3 touchdowns. Mo Alley Cox, 42 catches, 525, 4 touchdowns. So kind of even split there. You've got them on your big board. You got Doyle 35, Alley Cox 36. Projections, you have them both significantly higher, although not that high. You got Cox at 21 and Doyle at 25.
Yeah, it's the reason I bumped him up, Nat, and the receivers kind of took a ding because of it. The more I dug into Reich, he's always targeted the tight end position 25% or higher in all but 1 year so far with the Colts. And that kind of carries over from the Eagles. We've seen, all those years with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, but also beforehand too, there was always a heavy target share going to the tight end. So that's kind of the offense he's always been bred in. It's just a matter of, I don't love either player. You had Jack Doyle. I love him for being
right. I love Jack Doyle as a person.
As a human. Yes, right. Exactly. As a physical talent, not doing a whole lot
anymore. No.
Sure, steady hands. It might move the chains every now and again, but not the touchdown threat he used to be. That really never existed anyways. We just
it existed in our mind. He won a couple RSJ weekly Nutcracker awards at the tight end position, I believe.
Exactly, right. Yeah, he'd have those random 2 touchdown days. You're like, Jack motherfucking Doyle. We might have another 1 or 2 of those every now and again. I will always love the guy because the one time I made him my must play, he had a 10-catch, 1 TD day against the Titans.
Oh, I remember.
I'll always have a soft spot. I used him, again, I give advice that I use, and I used him in all my lineups that week because I had a guy on bye that I owned across all my leagues, and Doyle came through. So always will have a soft spot in my heart. I guess there's just a little bit of unsexy upside to 1 or 2 of these guys because of the amount of peppering they get from Frank Reich. But if I'm going to go in on one, I'm going to go for Mo Alley Cox, 6'5", athletic, flashed a ton of different times throughout last year. And there's no more Trey Burton. I wouldn't be surprised to see a useful fantasy tight end come from the Colts, but good luck picking out which one that's going to be. I think they're going to both another cheese nibbling situation. Plus Kyle Granson, an impressive rookie, has apparently been better than both of them throughout camp. So I think a good tight end is going to maybe emerge from the Colts, but I'm not going to spend my valuable draft capital figuring out who that is. I'll let it play out and maybe attack him on the waiver if somebody seems
sounds like a possible waiver pickup, if anything.
Exactly. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.